Get enough? Yeah. Remember those Polaroid days where it like actually mattered?
All right. Good morning. Hope you all are having as much fun today as we are. We're taking the lead from the president and really moving fast these days in the House, as you all know. But we've got a really important opportunity today to rein in the federal role in education, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. We want to ensure every child has the best chance to receive an excellent education. And teachers are obviously at the heart of that for us. Unfortunately, the Obama administration passed many rules which really impede what the people at the local level are trying to do with providing an excellent education. And one of the examples is on the teacher preparation rule. So today we're going to be passing HJ Res 58. They developed criteria for teacher preparation, which is a Washington top-down rule. And let me give you an example of why it's going to have the opposite effect of what it's intended to do. It's going to require the states to spend millions on new rating system and take money away from programs. The DOE estimated it would cost $27 million per year nationwide to implement this rule. The state of California, generally friendly to Obama-era mandates, estimated it's going to cost $230 million for the state of California alone to set up for this rule. And it would cost $485 million to maintain, per year. So the rule is just not going to be helping us at all with helping prepare teachers. It's going to have the opposite effect of what they wanted it to have, and that's what we've seen in so many of the rules. Establishing an increased control for bureaucracy is a threat to our economy, our Constitution, and the people of this country. So we're going to roll that rule back today. More importantly, again, this resolution and the resolution that my colleague Todd Rokita is now going to discuss will lead to a more appropriate federal rule in education and provide for students the excellent education that they deserve. So I'd like to recognize now Chairman Rokita.
Thank you, Chairwoman Fox. Good morning, everybody. Todd Rokita, Indiana 4. I'm in my 5th year of being the subcommittee chairman for kindergarten through 12th grade education and the Education Workforce Committee in the House. And my first 4 years were spent working with Chairman McCline, Lamar Alexander, Senator Alexander, and our Democratic counterparts on a very bipartisan bill, the Student Success Act. After 13 years of No Child Left Behind, it rolled back the one-size-fits-all prescription that the federal government had laid out and empowered parents and states, local legislators, superintendents to take control and the responsibility for our kids' education again, our best asset, our children. And just because we didn't define a similar federal role doesn't mean that we were silent in doing so. Our intention, our bipartisan intention, was to give this responsibility, give this role back to the states. And lo and behold, here comes the last administration's Department of Education inserting itself into student participation rates for testing, inserting itself into teacher evaluations, and a whole host of other things. So today's HJ Res 57 is going to work to roll back those rules, and as Chairwoman Fox said, allow for more appropriate regulation, that being a check after a state develops a plan to see that it complies with the law that we intended, in a way that we intended, and with that, demonstrate that the specificity with which we wrote this law is carried out. Thank you.
Well, we continue to work. It's a shorter work week this week as the Democrats are going away on their retreat, but we continue to work on regulatory reform with 3 more congressional review acts today. This is continuing in the part of the 2-part plan to reform bureaucracy here in Washington and return power to the people, as you listen to Rokita and Chairwoman Fox on the 2 CRAs. We have a third one that's coming forward by Liz Cheney, and this is overturning the BLM Planning 2.0 rule. This regulation would impose Washington vision on more than 175 million acres of land, about 11 states out west. And it would impose telling you how to manage the land. Everyone would have a say, except those local that are on the land. It's another prime example of Washington dictating of what knows best. But when you think of the size and the scope of how large this is more than 4,000 times the size of D.C. But D.C. is going to tell you how to run it. This has actually been a grassroots campaign up from those that live, graze, and actually care for that land. They want to have a say in it. Today we'll be able to move those 3 continuing congressional review acts, move them on to the Senate, and then we'll be back next week for more work.
The House has taken important action today to pass legislation that will empower states and local communities to better run their school systems in the best interest of the students. And if you look at what's been happening, President Obama continued on his way out the door to try to give more control to unelected bureaucrats in Washington at the expense of our students back in their local communities. So this is important legislation, and hopefully this will get all the way to President Trump's desk and get signed into law. There was another bill that we passed last night unanimously out of the House, something that everybody across the country should be really concerned about. It's called the Email Privacy Act, a bill by Kevin Yoder that passed in the last Congress and hopefully actually makes it all the way through the process this year. That takes, right now, the IRS has actually been undermining the private rights of citizens, undermining the Fourth Amendment protections of privacy of Americans all across the country that don't realize that right now the IRS has been reading emails without the knowledge of the person who sent those emails. They don't even let you know unless they find something that they're going to go after you on. And so right now, if the IRS is reading your emails without your permission and without a warrant, you don't even know about it unless they decide that they want to come after you. That will end with the Email Privacy Act. The federal government shouldn't be reading your emails privately. It's something that's been going on for years now. We uncovered it through our oversight and now brought forward legislation that gives actual protections, privacy protections, to Americans to have the understanding and the protection to know that the federal government cannot read your email without your permission unless they get a warrant. You ought to have that privacy right. That's been taken away by the IRS over the last few years. We're finally giving that privacy protection back to Americans.
Look, every day we are focused here on delivering results for the American people. That is the trust that has been given to us by the people we represent. That is why we are tackling these excessive regulations, because it means job creation. It means opportunity. It means more growth and innovation across our economy. That is why you are seeing us take our precious time to focus on rolling back excessive regulations that are killing jobs in America. It's also why we're working to repeal and replace Obamacare, to help people who are struggling with these higher premiums, to help people who have lost their plan or their doctor or both, to help people left with just one insurer to choose from, as is the case with 1 out of every 3 counties in America. This is not what the country was promised. Far from it. More and more, we see things getting worse. More and more, we see this law collapsing in front of us. So we could have done one of 2 things. We could have just sit back and watched the collapse happen and see people get hurt, or we could step in and conduct a rescue mission, which is to rescue the American healthcare system from the collapse that is coming because of Obamacare. There is no excuse for getting this wrong. That is why, as promised, we are taking action step by step. One of those steps is also getting Tom Price confirmed as HHS Secretary, and we hope that the Senate will do that very soon. With Dr. Price in place at HHS, he will help deliver stability and reinvigorate the marketplace for consumers so that people can have more choices. Another step is to have our committees take action on specific healthcare bills. That's why Kathy McMorris Rogers isn't here today, because the Energy and Commerce Committee is marking up important Medicaid legislation while we speak. We are pressing ahead step by step. Now, I know that there are strong views about this. There should be strong views about this. Healthcare is very personal. That is why we are committed to getting this right. That is why we are committed to rescuing people from this collapsing law and replace it with a much better system that is a patient-centered healthcare system, where we as patients and our doctors are the nucleus, the decision makers of our healthcare system, not some distant bureaucracy. That is why we're going to do this step by step and do this right, and replace it with something that is far better for families, far better for patients. Questions?
Mr. Speaker, the President made several new false statements yesterday, most notably that there are major terror attacks that the media intentionally isn't covering. Are you getting concerned at all about his grasp of the truth?
Look, I'm going to do my job. I'll let you guys do yours with respect to how you report or what you don't report. The problem is we do have a war on terror in front of us. We do have ISIS trying to conduct terrorist attacks across the globe. This is a real serious problem, and what I'm focused on is doing our job and making sure that our law enforcement authorities, that our military have the tools they need to keep us safe.
But are you worried that it hurts our credibility around the world when he says
I can't speak to whether or not you're over or under reporting something. That's your job. I'll stick with doing mine. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, Anna Edgerton from Bloomberg. Over the weekend, President Trump tweeted about the so-called judge, called his decision ridiculous. I know he's an unconventional president. You don't comment on the tweet of the day.
So you got my cocky voice done already.
But at what point is it appropriate for the Speaker of the House to stand up and say, you know,
Look,
it is important to respect other branches of government?
We respect an independent judiciary. This is a separate branch of government. Look, he's not the first president to get frustrated with a ruling from a court. I think what's most important are the actions. This administration is honoring the ruling, and this administration is going through the proper procedures to deal with the ruling, to try and get the ruling overturned. They're going through the appeals process. They're respecting the separation of powers in the process. Look, I know he's an unconventional president. He gets frustrated with judges. We get frustrated with judges, but he's respecting the process, and I think that's what counts at the end of the day.
Mr. Speaker, the President also talked about a timeline for changing the current health care system. He put that at a year. Is that a timeline you're comfortable with? Is he getting that from you?
Yeah.
Or
this year. The question is, how long does it take to implement the full replacement of Obamacare? And that's why, honestly, we got to get Tom Price over at HHS, Seema Verma confirmed at CMS, so that they can get to work with replacing this collapsing law. So the question about how long it takes to effectuate the change, how long it takes to put these things in place, that's a question that the HHS can answer. But as far as legislating is concerned, we're going to do our legislating this year.
On that same issue, though, over the weekend we saw a fair amount of backlash from Americans voicing their concerns directly to Republican members about this. Are you concerned that you need to not just present a plan, but sell it to the American people quickly?
I think it's important for people to speak their minds in this country. That we cherish the First Amendment. And people who are concerned and anxious, we want them to know that we want to listen to their concerns, and that peaceful protests are something we honor in this country. I just hope people keep it peaceful, respect private property, have no violence. And so this is something that we cherish. We've been doing this in Wisconsin for many, many years. We're used to this where I come from. But the point that we cannot escape, Obamacare is collapsing. It's not working. Premiums are going up double digits. Deductibles are so high, it doesn't even feel like you got insurance. So the law is in the middle of a collapse, and it's our duty and our obligation to replace it with something better. The good news is we actually ran on a plan to replace Obamacare, and now our committees are in the midst of actually putting that plan together. And so yes, this year we're going to be going out and talking about what our plan is, the one we ran on in 2016, and why it's going to be better. And so that's what I think you should take a look at. Take a look at our plan for pre-existing conditions with high-risk pools. We think it's far superior. Take a look at our plan for refundable tax credits so people can get affordable health care insurances. Take a look at our plan for more insurance competition so that we can actually have competition in the marketplace so that we can get prices down. That's the beautiful thing about the American healthcare system that we want restored. And so we do have plans. Our committees are busy, underway doing this. And yes, we're going to have a great conversation with our fellow citizens about how it is our mission to rescue the healthcare system from its imminent collapse and to give people something better. And we hope to get this done as fast as possible because families are counting on us.
Last question.
Who are you from?
Jennifer, National Quarterly, the White House has said it will be sending a border supplemental and a defense supplemental to the Hill. When do you expect those? How much do you expect those to cost? And what vehicle do you plan on moving those through the House?
Sooner is better than later, but I don't know the answer to the size and scope of it because they haven't sent it to us yet. But we've always long anticipated that we would get a supplemental from the administration on defense issues, on national security issues, and we expect that. Thank you very much.
How do you plan on moving it through the House, sir?
Thank you.